If you've ever played Complex Doom, you already know this goes far beyond a simple mod. What started as a modification of Doom quickly turned into a full ecosystem of chaos, featuring hundreds of enemy variants, rarity systems, overpowered weapons, insane bosses, and nearly infinite combinations. And that's exactly what makes it so interesting. Over the years, the community has pushed things even further, with the best-known versions being Complex Doom, Nexus Infinity, God Complex, and Clusterfuck. And that's where this iceberg comes in. In this video, we're going to explore Complex Doom from top to bottom, starting with the most well-known features and gradually moving into the more obscure, lesser-known, and deeper parts of the community. And before we dive in, if you end up enjoying the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. And if you think something is missing from this iceberg, feel free to leave your suggestions in the comments. There are always more obscure details, mechanics, and community discoveries out there, and I might include them in a future video. So set up your load order, check your add-ons, and be careful what might spawn. Let's get into the iceberg. Starting with the very first topic, the original Complex Doom. This is where everything begins. Created by Daedalus, Complex Doom is a gameplay overhaul for Doom that focuses on variety, unpredictability, and replayability. Instead of fighting the same enemies over and over, the mod introduces multiple variants for almost every monster in the game. That means a single encounter can play out very differently each time, depending on which versions of enemies spawn. Alongside that, the mod also adds several new monsters, new weapons, and new power-ups. All of this combines to create a gameplay loop that feels much more dynamic and chaotic than the base game. Although this first mod is much simpler and more basic than the other mods that complement it, he was what allowed the community to expand Complex Doom into something much bigger over time. Everything else in this iceberg builds on top of this. Complex Doom, Nexus Infinity. This is where the mod is practically at its peak content level. Nexus Infinity takes everything from the original Complex Doom and expands it to an extreme degree. It's not just an add-on. It's a massive combination of multiple add-ons created over time by different members of the community. In fact, it includes content from several other projects, even incorporating elements from complex, very strong monsters, an add-on we'll talk about later in this iceberg. And not only that, it also refines and improves these add-ons, aiming for better balance and overall quality of life. With several creators involved, such as High Counselor, Titanium, Dowan, Shran, Hellsmith, Dr. Sticky, ConsoleCast, NaturalXF, GD Wolf, Trusar, Vast Unliking, and Fluffy, who acts as the director and is responsible for maintaining the project. This has become the community's main version of Complex Doom. In terms of sheer content, it's currently the largest and most complete version, not even counting its own add-ons like Infinity Gods and similar expansions. One of the biggest additions in Nexus Infinity is its progression system, something that was mostly absent in traditional Complex Doom. Instead of every run being completely isolated, this system introduces a sense of build and growth throughout gameplay. A key part of this comes from the demonic rune system. Dropped by bosses, grant a random power-up, and last until the end of the map. These runes can drastically change how a run plays out, adding another layer of unpredictability and strategy. Another important mechanic is the Dice of Reset. At certain moments, this system can re-roll or change the current monster preset mid-game, meaning enemies can suddenly become weaker or much stronger. The pacing of the run can shift instantly, and no situation is ever truly stable. This adds a unique dynamic where the difficulty isn't just increasing, it's constantly fluctuating. Also featuring the addition of new HD sprites for the main weapons used by the player, and also enemies and bosses based on horror games, something not explored as much in Complex Doom. Overall, Nexus Infinity transforms Complex Doom into something far more complex and layered. It's no longer just about surviving chaotic encounters. It's about adapting to evolving systems, managing progression, and dealing with mechanics that can completely reshape the gameplay at any moment. Next up, God Complex. God Complex is where the Complex Doom formula takes a completely different direction. Instead of just stacking more monsters, more effects, and more chaos like most add-ons, this mod turns the experience into something closer to a full progression-based looter shooter. At its core, God Complex introduces a real progression system, where the more you play, the stronger your character becomes, unlocking new power levels, items, and mechanics over time. Enemies aren't just random anymore either. Bosses can scale, evolve, and even become stronger as the game goes on, meaning the challenge grows alongside you. RNG still plays a role, but there are mechanics to prevent bad luck from completely ruining progression. It also introduces mechanics like upgraded rune systems, boss evolution, and leveling systems, new Game Plus style scaling and replayability systems, large-scale item systems including shields, morphs, and power boosts. Instead of just surviving chaos, you're slowly becoming something overpowered enough to control it. And that's the main idea behind the name. God Complex isn't just about difficulty or randomness anymore. It's about climbing to the point where you become one of the strongest entities in the game, while fighting other things trying to reach that same level. Clusterfuck. If Nexus Infinity expands Complex Doom, Clusterfuck completely reinvents how you play it. Clusterfuck is essentially a massive fusion of multiple add-ons and systems, combining content from several mods into a single experience. But instead of just stacking content, it transforms Complex Doom into something closer to an RPG. One of its biggest features is its Diablo-style inventory system. Here, you don't just pick up weapons. You manage items, equip gear, and build your character throughout the run. This includes equipable items that affect your stats, inventory management during gameplay, progression tied directly to what you collect and use. And speaking of progression, Clusterfuck has one of the most complex progression systems in the entire Complex Doom ecosystem. Instead of simple scaling or random upgrades, your power is heavily tied to the weapons you own, how you upgrade them, and how you combine different systems together. Another major mechanic is its crafting system, which allows you to create legendary weapons using specific components and materials. This is done through special systems, like cube-style crafting, making the mod feel almost like a loot-based dungeon crawler rather than a traditional Doom experience. On top of that, Clusterfuck introduces progressive spawners, making encounters scale and evolve mid-game. New balance systems and mechanics that differ heavily from standard Complex Doom. And something a lot of people overlook, it also includes an achievement system, giving players extra goals and challenges beyond just surviving each map. Because of all this, Clusterfuck doesn't really play like Complex Doom with more content. It feels like a completely different game built on top of it. For many players, this is one of the most unique and overwhelming versions of Complex Doom ever created. And from this point on, the line between mod, overhaul, and entirely new game becomes almost impossible to define. TLCA. TLCA, or True Legendary Complex Addon, created by High Counselor, is an addon built on top of Nexus, designed to push the experience even further into in-game territory. As its own description states, legendary monsters can unleash their full potential in their true legendary forms, plus adding new enemies, weapons, and bosses. And that's exactly what it does. If Nexus expands the base experience, TLCA raises the ceiling. One of its core features is the introduction of true legendary forms. In Nexus, legendary enemies are already powerful, but in TLCA, they evolve even further. Significantly higher stats, new abilities and behaviors, more dangerous and unpredictable encounters. These aren't just stronger enemies. They fundamentally change how fights play out. TLCA also expands the game with new enemies, adding more variety and unpredictability. New weapons, designed to keep up with the increased difficulty. New bosses, featuring more complex and punishing mechanics. These additions ensure that the experience doesn't just get harder, it becomes deeper. Another important aspect is how TLCA affects gameplay pacing. Compared to standard Nexus, encounters are more intense, mistakes are more punishing, preparation becomes essential. You can't rely on raw power alone anymore. You need strategy, positioning, and proper builds. In many ways, TLCA acts as a bridge. It takes the foundation created by Nexus and begins pushing it toward the kind of complexity later seen in Nexus Infinity. Higher scaling, more layered combat, and more demanding progression. Because of this, TLCA isn't just an addon. It's a turning point. The moment where the experience shifts from expanded mod into something that starts to feel like a full in-game system. And from here on, everything only gets more complex. Zandronum. Unlike the previous entries, Zandronum isn't a mod. It's the engine that makes many of these experiences possible. Zandronum is a multiplayer-focused source port of Doom, designed to handle large-scale online play, something that base Doom was never built for. And this is where things start to shift in a different direction. While mods like Nexus, TLCA, and Clusterfuck focus on expanding gameplay systems, Zandronum expands how the game is played. Its biggest strength is multiplayer support. It allows large co-op sessions with many players, online servers with persistent communities, custom game modes beyond standard Doom. This turns Complex Doom from a solo or small co-op experience into something closer to a shared, chaotic battlefield. And that changes everything. Because when you combine Zandronum with mods like Complex Doom or Clusterfuck, enemy density increases dramatically. Fights become unpredictable due to multiple players. Coordination, or lack of it, becomes part of the challenge. It's no longer just about surviving the game. It's about surviving the chaos created by both the mod and the players. However, this comes with trade-offs. Zandronum is based on older code compared to more modern engines, which means some newer systems and features aren't supported. Certain mods need to be adapted or simplified to work properly. This is why some versions of Complex Doom content differ depending on the engine being used. Even so, Zandronum became the backbone of the multiplayer scene. Many of the most chaotic and memorable experiences, especially with mods like Clusterfuck, are built specifically around it. In the context of the iceberg, Zandronum represents something important. Not complexity in mechanics, but complexity in player interaction. Because once you add dozens of players into an already chaotic system, you're no longer just playing the mod, you're playing an ecosystem. And that's where the experience becomes truly unpredictable. Infinity Gods. If Nexus Infinity already feels like the peak of Complex Doom, Infinity Gods is what happens when that peak gets pushed even further. Infinity Gods is an addon built specifically for Nexus Infinity, focused entirely on expanding its endgame to an extreme level. And it doesn't just add more content, it stretches the limits of what the mod can handle. In many ways, Infinity Gods can be seen as the successor to Extra Infinity. While Extra Infinity already expanded the late-game experience, Infinity Gods takes that same idea and amplifies it massively. More systems, more enemies, more scaling, and far more demanding encounters. One of its biggest additions is the expansion of the rune system. Infinity Gods introduces new types of runes, stronger and more impactful effects, and more build-defining upgrades. At this point, runes stop being just bonuses and start becoming a core part of your power. The addon also brings new monster classes, with some classes specifically designed for high-end gameplay, returning enemies and items from complex, very strong monsters. now rebalanced and adapted to fit Nexus Infinity. And entirely new threats that are built to challenge even fully progressed players. And that's where Infinity Gods truly stands out, with content for early, mid, and especially designed for players who are already at their strongest. Even at max power, you're still pushed to your limits. It also introduces new bosses capable of surviving extreme player damage, forcing mechanical adaptation, and turning fights into long, high-pressure encounters. These aren't just stronger bosses. They are designed to counter late-game builds. Because of all this, Infinity Gods doesn't just add more to Nexus Infinity. It completes it. When combined together, Nexus Infinity plus Infinity Gods represents the maximum level of content Complex Doom has ever reached. Dusted Pandemonia. At first glance, it might seem like just another chaotic Doom mod. But Dusted Pandemonia takes that chaos and pushes it into something much more intense. Created by Dusted Pandemonic, this mod focuses on fast-paced, overwhelming combat, where the screen is constantly filled with effects, action, and visual intensity. Unlike more system-heavy mods like Nexus Infinity or Clusterfuck, Dusted Pandemonia is all about raw gameplay intensity. It doesn't rely on complex progression or deep mechanics. Instead, it challenges the player through pure combat. The experience is defined by highly polished and flashy visual effects, making every fight feel impactful, constant action and pressure, keeping the player engaged at all times, a strong focus on player skill and reaction time, and an overall presentation that makes the gameplay feel more explosive and satisfying. Because of this, every fight feels intense. You're not just playing, you're reacting to everything happening at once. It's also worth noting that Dusted Pandemonia wasn't always just another mod in the list. At one point, it was considered one of the main mods in the Complex Doom community, gaining a lot of attention for its unique style and visual identity. In a way, Dusted Pandemonia represents a different side of the community. While some mods evolve Complex Doom through systems and progression, this one pushes presentation and moment-to-moment gameplay to its limit. LCA. Before the massive expansions, before the layered systems, there was LCA. LCA, short for Legendary Complex Addon, is widely recognized as one of the first major add-ons ever created for Complex Doom, marking the beginning of what would eventually become an entire ecosystem of expansions. Created by contributors like Legendary, Overlord, Blood, and others, this add-on didn't just add content. It introduced a new way of thinking about the mod. At its core, LCA expanded one of Complex Doom's most important concepts, enemy rarity. Instead of simply adding more monsters, it pushed the idea of stronger variants, rarer spawns, and more unpredictable encounters, further than the base mod had done before. This is where the idea of legendary enemies really started to take shape. Enemies weren't just harder, they felt distinct. Each encounter had the potential to become something memorable or completely overwhelming. LCA also helped establish a pattern that many future add-ons would follow, expanding existing systems instead of replacing them, building on top of rarity and scaling, and increasing difficulty through variation, not just numbers. Because of this, LCA wasn't just another add-on, it was the foundation, the point where the community realized that Complex Doom could be expanded almost infinitely through add-ons. And without LCA, mods like Nexus, TLCA, and even Nexus Infinity might not exist in the form we know today. It's simple compared to modern standards, but historically, it's one of the most important pieces of the entire iceberg. First, there's Daedalus, the original creator of Complex Doom. Everything starts here. The systems, the enemy variations, the core identity of the mod. All of it traces back to him. Then comes Fluffy, currently one of the main figures in the community. Fluffy is not only a key administrator, but also one of the most important modders. He is responsible for major projects like Nexus, and plays a central role in maintaining and developing Nexus Infinity, which has become the community's main version. Next is Dr. Sticky, known both as a modder and a content creator through his YouTube channel Dr. Sticky Games. He is responsible for add-ons like LNA, which expand Nexus with new enemies and encounters. He also played a big role in showcasing and documenting different parts of the community over time. Then there's Overlord, one of the key contributors behind TLCA. Overlord helped shape one of the earliest and most important add-ons in Complex Doom history, laying the groundwork for everything that came after. And finally, UltraViolence, creator of God Complex and owner of one of the most well-known YouTube channels in the community. He is one of the people who helped popularize Complex Doom the most. Through both his content and his mods, he pushed the limits of what the game could become. Together, these names represent more than just creators. They represent the evolution of Complex Doom itself. Complex Tournament. At some point, the chaos of Complex Doom wasn't just about surviving anymore. It became something you could compete in. Complex Tournament is a version of Complex Doom designed with a different focus in mind, bringing competitive elements into a mod that was originally built around chaotic PvE. Instead of only expanding enemies and randomness, this mod shifts the experience toward player versus player interactions, structured matches and scenarios, and a more controlled gameplay environment. But it doesn't abandon its roots. Alongside its competitive features, Complex Tournament also introduces additional cooperative mechanics, adjustments to make team-based gameplay more viable, and systems that support both PvP and co-op experiences. Because of this, the mod sits in a very unique place within the community. Random monsters. At first, it might sound simple, just another add-in that adds more enemy variety. But random monsters is much more important than it seems. At its core, this add-in focuses on expanding the most common part of the gameplay, the enemies you fight all the time. Instead of only adding rare or extreme encounters, it introduces new variants of regular monsters, more frequent unpredictability, and a constant shift in how each fight plays out. Because of this, even the most basic encounters start to feel different. You're no longer just fighting familiar enemies. You're constantly adapting to new versions of them. But what really made random monsters stand out in the community was the introduction of something far more memorable. The Terminator, one of the most iconic bosses in the entire Complex Doom community. The Terminator isn't just difficult, it's overwhelming, known for extreme durability, massive firepower, and the ability to completely dominate a fight. It quickly became a symbol of high-level difficulty within the mod. Reimagined CF Sounds. Not every mod in Complex Doom is about adding more chaos. Some are about changing how that chaos feels. Reimagined CF Sounds is a simple concept on the surface, a mod that replaces and enhances the sound design of Complex Doom. Instead of introducing new enemies or mechanics, it focuses on new weapon sounds, improved audio feedback, and a more immersive overall experience. But despite being simple, its impact is noticeable. Project Complexity. I couldn't find much information besides some gameplay videos, and from what I saw, T has a style very similar to Dusted Pandemonia, with flashy and more modern visual effects, smoother and more polished presentation, and a strong focus on fast, intense combat. And for what it looks like, this mod will probably be updated more in the future. Chaos Lite, like LNA, is another add-in that adds new weapons and monsters. However, it was originally designed for older versions of Clusterfuck. It is one of Murasakineran's projects, alongside Sour Apple. Other projects by the same creator include Beasts Unleashed and Neo Complex, which are currently still in development. Currently, Chaos Lite doesn't have active download links, but you might be able to find an older version online. And that was the first part of the Complex Doom Iceberg. There's still a lot more to uncover. More obscure addons, more hidden mechanics, and things that get even harder to explain the deeper we go. So if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. This took a lot of time and effort to put together, and your support really helps. And if you think I missed something, feel free to leave your suggestions in the comments. There's always more to add in a community like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next part.